Now we have reached to the end of Node.js concept discussion, where we have discussed all the Node.js concepts like how to uh, emit events or attach event handlers, error handling, how to work with files in Node.js, how do you create a file, how to read a file, how do you append to a file, how do you create folders, how do you check if a folder exists or not. Then we understood the different ways of program execution, like callback oriented, promise oriented, then async await, the latest async await. Then we also understood how asynchronous programming works and everything, right? All we have learned so far is obviously to learn or to apply something somewhere, right? So that's where the first step begins with us, where we are going to create a complete full-fledged application uh, by exposing different routes and by different REST operations on the same routes using the framework Express.js. So Express.js is one such framework uh, which is built on top of Node.js, and it is very fast and unopinionated minimalist web framework for Node.js. So to build any kind of API server for web applications, so see, Express.js is used for building web applications. Express It is used for building web applications or APIs. And see, Express is a minimal and flexible Node.js web application framework that provides a robust set of features. So we have seen how to create or expose an Express API server in HTTP in Node.js as well by using the HTTP module. But there, the code becomes very complex when you want to add new URLs, and also you don't have much of flexibility to make it a full-fledged application, right? So Express.js is very good at that. It is very small, and the main thing which I like about Express.js is that it has the routing facility, right? So you can segregate your code. We'll see about that. And we have the middleware concept, so writing middleware. So what are these middlewares? How do you create those middlewares? And we'll try to apply as much of knowledge, and what I will try to learn more concepts of Express.js, and also we'll try to understand the Node.js, whatever we have learned so far. We'll try to apply them, and we'll create a full-fledged CRUD application. CRUD means create, read, update and delete. So a application which is going to create the data, update the data, delete the data and read the data. So we'll create a sample database as well. So we'll use file system as the database itself. Perfect, right? So you can use the file system, file related operations as well. So we'll expose a route which creates a user, which updates the existing user, which deletes the existing user, which reads all the existing users, right? So let's create that full-fledged application for us, right? So for that, let me start a new folder. Let me create a new folder, mkdir crud user crud application. So as I said, whenever you want to create any new application, you create the folder first, then code dot will open the folder over there, Visual Studio Code over there. Let me close this, and I have to create, and I have to first make it an npm project, right? Npm init. How do I do that? Npm init. Npm init does the packet dot creation, packet dot JSON creation, right? Then yes, so by default, with all the default commands, now I have the packet.json. Then immediately I would require the index.js, where I would install Express.js and I would initiate the Express server. We'll see how we can do that. And also I will create the folders which are required for me, adapters. Here my DB will be file system itself. So I'll basically the database can be SQL, Postgres or MongoDB or anything, right? Then I'll create a new folder, services. Right here inside services, I can have controllers. Controllers are the entry pointer application, right? And then you have the new folder called as models, right? So this is the basic structure, right? This is the basic structure. Since we are using file system as database, you don't need a connection to the file system because you can directly create one, right? So this is the basic folder structure which everybody follows, and you can start your Express server just simply by installing npm install express save. So you are installing the Express server in your application right now. And how do you start an Express server? Constant app is equal to Express, right? So here first I have to import the Express. Constant Express is equal to require Express. So first I am requiring the Express, right? Then constant app is equal to Express function. Now this returns me an app. Now app.listen, I have to give the port number like we did, and then the callback function, right? Then the callback function console.log server started on port 3000, right? And then let me add a route app.get. So this is the basic express.json creation, right? Express.json creation, express server creation, right? So I have created a new route, index route, right? So this I'm attaching a callback over here, app.get. Then I would send res.send. So this is how you send response in the Express server. That's it. Now as simple as this, right? Now I'm just creating the Express server over here, right? So I have to give an start command. So start inside the packet.json node index.js, right? Then I can simply run npm start. So it started my application on the port 3000, and now when I open my browser localhost /3000, I see the hello world command, hello world outputted. So this is very simple, right? In Node.js, we've struggled a lot. We imported the HTTP module. We have to create the server, http.create server. Then you listen to it. Then adding new routes is very difficult. You have to use the if-else conditions and all the stuff, right? So this is the basic express.js initialization. It is very simple, right? But there is a good way you can start your express.js, right? So we will do that. We will follow that method, right? So let me come back and let me delete the current application, right? And then what we can do is there is a generator for us. So there is a generator command which is called as express generator, npm install express generator. So I am installing it as the global npm module. Okay, global npm module. After installing the global npm module, right, you can generate the standard or the basic requirements which are needed to run a full-fledged Express.js application. So what this Express generator is going to help you is it will create a complete or boilerplate code ready for starting with your Express.js application. So see, you simply do express and then user CRUD application, user CRUD application. So when you run this command, so this has now created a folder, and let me cd into that user CRUD application. And if I open the code editor over there, right, or let me open it, open folder inside the workspaces, code sapiens, user CRUD application, open. I think some problem with my Visual Studio Code, it is not getting open. User CRUD application. Yes, perfect. So see, this is the basic application which has been created for us, and it has many things inside it, right? Packet.json has many dependencies which we haven't mentioned, and it already has the what do I say? It already has the start command ready for it, right? Uh, if you see the app.js file, if you see the apps.js file, it contains lot of code, right? So I'll walk you through each of this, what exactly it is doing, right? What exactly it is doing, and we can then start or then make customizations to this particular code. So see, these are the basic or minimum required dependencies which are needed to run your application. And in our case, since it is a pure backend based application, we don't need the views. Views are nothing but the HTML file. So if you want to build a complete full-fledged application, you would need the views. So for us, it is not needed because it is going to act as an API server. I'm deleting the views over here, and from the here where we are setting the app.view engine, right? I'll explain what we are doing over here, right? And then I'll delete the Jade. Jade is the view engine over here, which we are anyhow not using. Even today we are using React.js applications. And then I'll do npm install. So when I run npm install command, when I run the npm install command, it basically installs all the dependencies present over here, and it created the package.log and the node modules folder, right? Now, what exactly Express.js is doing over here, right? So, first thing, uh, yeah. So first thing, it is importing the cookie parser module, path module, and Morgan module. So Morgan is used for logger, so it logs the data on the console.log. So in your production based application, you want to log the data, like when a request comes to you, when an error comes to you, you want to log, right? So Morgan is a logger library, right? And it is running in the development mode. Then it has two routes, index.js and the user.js. So this is the segregation of routes, and all the routes inside this file, all the routes inside this file are appended by slash, and all the routes inside the routes of users are appended by slash users. It means if you want to access any HTML or any route inside the users folder, though it is mentioned as slash, though it is mentioned as slash, you have to append by slash users. That is what it is saying. So you import the routes, and then you are attaching those routes to your main application. So you are creating a new application, Express application, and for that you are supplying app.use, 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 right? So what is this app.use? We'll understand clearly, but let me pull out this app.use for right now, and let's understand app.use means that app.use applies the middleware. So we'll understand what is middleware from at a later point, but right now let me create the routes for you, right? So see here, I'll delete few of the things which are not needed right now, but I just showed you that you can create an Express server totally by running the Express generator. And in the public, so when you are running full-fledged application, you would need images and everything, right? So that's the reason public is there. Since we don't need, we are not doing a full-fledged or HTML-based complete web application, we don't need public one as well. So I'm deleting this also. So cookie parser is basically if browser is sending you any cookies and you want to parse that information, you need to supply that as the middleware. I'll explain you, or I'll show you what will happen if you don't do these three lines, and I'll also show you the difference when I don't apply the logger library, right? So now I'll delete these two files as well, right? I'll delete these two files as well, and I will not apply anything over here, right? Now when I start my application, how do I start my application? App.listen port number. So I'll take the port from env. So you know how to parse an env. Port is process.env.port, right? Or process.env.port, and I have to add a env file .env, and here I have to add port is equal to 3000, right? And now I have to install the .env module, that is npm install .env save. Right now I have installed the .env and I'm deleting the libraries which are not used anymore, right? Then how do I supply the env? Require .env.config. So this looks for the env files over here, packet.json, saying yeah. So require .env config, it looks for the env, and whatever env values are present, it's going to pick up those values and it will start my server on the port which I mentioned in my env file, right? Like this, app.listen console.log server started on the port number, right? And when I have to change my packet.json to node index or app.js. So this is my entry file. Now when I start npm start, it runs my application and my application is started on 3000, but there are no routes attached. So as I said, your main application or main file will be totally just for initializing or make whatever, like just for initializing your application, whatever stuff are needed, you will put all those in the app.js or index.js or main.js, you can call it anything, right? Then you need the other functions, other folders, adapters. Here in our case, since we are not connecting to DB, we don't need this folder as well, but we would need the services, right? So for creating you create a service folder, services, and routes are technically nothing but the controllers. Routes and controllers are same, so I am renaming the routes to controllers, right? Now either you can add all the application routes over here, app.get, app.post, everything will be present. See, app.get, app.post, app.put, app.delete. So all the methods are present. But writing such a code is very bad because this file is going to be very, very big. This file is going to be very, very big, right? So you cannot put that code in such a way. So for that reason, what I'll do is I'll segregate my code. So let's say your application is having many pages, right? Like users profile page or order page or products page or cart page. So in all such cases, what we will do is we will create different routes like this. Index.js is the home page routes. So on the home page, you might be calling user login, user signed up, user user validate, or whatever. So in the index.js, what on the home page, what different APIs you want to call, and then you will have another folder just for creating users, deleting users, updating users. The same way you will have products page, and in that products page you will have to get all the products, you filter the products, you update the products and stuff like that. So for each controller, you will have each route segregated. So the code is placed in right places, and when some error occurs in user route, you're not looking for a big file, but you directly come to the controller and check your logic, right? So let me create two routes. Right? So constant router is equal to, or constant express is equal to require express, right? And constant router is equal to express dot router, right? Express dot router. Now we have a router object with us, and using this router object you can again call the same methods: router.get, router.put, router.update, and all the functions, right? So let's say slash and function. So this function is going to get request comma response as two arguments. First one is request, second one is response. Now I want to send the response. I can simply say res.send hello world, right? So this is defined in my index. Now I have to export this router object to the outer world. So I am doing module.exports router. Now simply I will import that module saying index router is equal to require services controllers and then index.js. So I don't need to specify .js if it is in JavaScript file, and I have the index router, but you haven't. So if I just run the code right now like this, so let me create another mode, dev mode, wherein it detects my changes and runs the application automatically. So npm run dev, right? It runs in the development mode. So if you just define the router over here, now how did you inform your application that there is a route called as slash in your application? So now if you go and type localhost 3000, though your server is running, you can see this cannot get, because there is no get operation, or you didn't connect your router and the application. For that you do this app.use. So what is the base URL of this route, or all the routes inside the index router, and then I would say the index router. So now my main application is connected with this route, and I can define any number of routes, and all those routes will be attached to the base link over here. So if I say hello, right? Now at what URL this route is available to me in the entire application? It's not at 3000, but instead it is at hello. So hello world, right? So similarly, if I want to create another router which is going to deal with users, I can do this. Constant express constant router equal to express dot router, right? And then I can say router dot get slash request comma response dot send welcome to users router. Right, now I have to export this router, same as how we did in the past. Now I have to supply that router, where users router is equal to services services, and then we have controllers, then we have users. Now again, if I am not connecting my application with this, right, then it is not going to work. Now since slash is already occupied by this guy, we have to check for another route, that is users. So by default, all the routes all the routes inside user will be appended by /users. So let's say now both are same. Now both the routes are same over here and over here. Now where does your request go? When you have same in both index and router, so it means you define the same routes, right? Now when I go here and type the base URL, that is after port number, it went to the hello world. But when I did this users, so it went to the users router. This is because I have mentioned in my application that users router will all be by default appended with /users. So in the same way, if I type hello over here, right? Now if I access users, then it is not going to work. But if I do users /hello, then this is going to work because I have by default appended with users, and after users the route will come. So this is how you create the routers in express.js, and we'll understand what are the different middlewares which we have supplied and what is the concept of middleware. And you might have already observed, let me start it in normal mode, npm start, right? You might have already observed. So when I am requesting something like this, you are able to see that this route, we didn't log this. It is saying somebody tried to access users/hello and the request code is 304 and the response time is 3 milliseconds. We didn't do this, but how is this happening? This is happening because of app.useLoggerDev. So the logger module which we have supplied as middleware, it is automatically checking whenever the request comes in, it taking that request and it is calculating the request and response time and adding it to the console. Now when I commented out this code and when I refresh it, I don't see any logs being run. This is because we commented out. So this is the use of logger library. So you can modify or you can create your own logger library also by when we understand the concept of middleware and how you can supply your custom middlewares to the Express.js application, right? So yeah, perfect. Now let's move on to the other place where we actually design our users application, where users will have 4 different routes, one which create the user, the other one deletes the user, the other one reads a single user, the other one reads all the users, etc. And we will also define the file system. So we will create a file and we'll store all the users data in that file, and so that we can read and write in the same file back to back instead of writing to a database, right?